Hello everyone. So I talked about this before, and now we have pretty much our answer what they're going to do, the Irish government. They pretty much have said it for the last few months what they were thinking about doing, especially with Australia bringing in their law on under 16s. So the government here, it's not like they're going to ban under 16s, but basically they're going to watch what you do, basically. So it's linked to your government ID card that you have. And this is pretty much wanting to see what you're saying and, basically wanting to follow up. So basically the Gardaí be going around probably knocking people's doors saying you're committing thought crime. So that's what we're pretty much at in this country. And as you see here, Ireland has the role of the European presidency at the end of next year, pretty much near the end of next year. So they're going to push this for all the European Union, the Irish government. Now, first of all, good luck on it, because let's be fair, there's going to be so much pushback, and there should be, because let's be fair, this is not for your health. Let's put it this way: there's never any case in the Irish government that they say this is for your health and well-being. It's not a hope of that. It's all because they don't like people questioning them. They control in the Irish state, they can control the media, the mainstream media. Pretty much the media rely on the Irish government to pay their bills. OT is basically bought out by the Irish government, got a big bailout. The public broadcaster, along with all the local radio stations, they rely on the government to give them 99% of their money. So why would they question the government on different things? But let this be no doubt that this is pretty much to silence people. And your anonymous accounts, and I will give them give a bit of a concession here, that in fairness there's some people that are anonymous accounts saying heinous things about people, and I will admit that, like really really heinous personal stuff, etc., personal threats and stuff that shouldn't be tolerated, of course. But just stating an opinion, even reason why people have anonymous accounts in a lot of cases is because they're afraid of the reaction. Say for example they have an opinion on immigration, mainly the main thing, a lot of people would have an opinion. They'd be afraid of the employer finding out, etc., what their opinion is, and some people, you may be starting a campaign against them to get them sacked. That has happened in this country, where people have been threatened and pretty much forced out of jobs by people going and finding out who the employer was and going to the employer, etc. But I do think this is very worrying. It is very, very worrying, because the Irish Constitution, is a thing too, and they have to kind of walk around that. That's the same with the hate speech bill. They couldn't pass it because the Irish Constitution says it very, very clearly. The only person who can take you away your right to freedom of speech is Almighty God when you die from this earth. That's the only person who can take your freedom of speech away, and they couldn't really go past that. So they couldn't. They tried their best, but they didn't get away with it. But yes, we see what happens with the Irish Constitution, because the Irish Constitution says it very clear. And the online space nowadays, compared to in public, is social media, is Twitter, is X, it's Facebook. People use social media now for its public, same as myself. But usually, I say it in public too. I'm not afraid to say what I have to say in public too. But this is the thing. They say it's all for the greater good, but let's be fair, it's not for the common good, as Pauline O'Reilly would say. It's all about shutting you up, and that's the main thing. The government doesn't like people questioning them, because that's what's happened. We see it constantly. People are questioning the government, people are questioning their local TDs on different things. And this fellow, Simon Harris, I couldn't trust him as far as I could throw him, to be totally honest. To be totally truthful with you. And as I say, it's not for people like me, because my name is out there. They know who I am. I often got in trouble for stuff I said online and stuff by the authorities, the state. Not really the authorities, but because obviously being a government employee myself, they can find out. They know exactly who I am, except they know everything about me. It's very easy to find everything about me. I'm not anonymous. But this is the thing. They might cry about some stuff, because there was crying about some stuff I've said over the past few years. I've often said things for politicians, often scared them, not personally, but said what I thought about them, and there was often a bit of crying about it in the background. But I just ignored that, let them cry. To be totally honest, that's the way I see it, because that's the Irish Constitution. You're perfectly entitled to it. If I break a law, I break a law, but I'm not breaking any laws. I'm entitled to speak. I'm entitled to give my 10 cents on whatever topic I'm talking about. But what I'm trying to suggest here is that people should be allowed to speak, of course, but this thing that will be related to your government ID. So basically, I don't know how it will work too. Would everybody be able to see, say for example, there's an person anonymous, and I could just look up their ID or something like that? Is that what the government is suggesting? But the main concern here too is that the Gardaí be spending half of their year, pretty much, all the Gardaí based in the country, be too busy going around looking for people that are committing talk crime. That's going to happen here. We see in the United Kingdom, there's more people being arrested in the United Kingdom for talk crime than there is people for knife crime and stuff like that. Like, the police are more wandering around about people committing talk crime, like having too much time to think. So we don't want that in this country. There's enough crime in this country, and the Gardaí won't deal with it. But when it comes to talk crime and stuff, that'll be probably the main worry. But I'm very concerned about this. I really, really am. Especially because the Irish government are going to try and push it on the rest of the European Union. Now, we see how that goes. It's not going to go well because it is people's right to speak and to have anonymous accounts too. But of course, there's people abusing that. I will admit that. I'm not going to sit here and say that's not happening. It is happening. I've seen it hundreds of times. There's been a case in Cavan, where a young lad was tortured, and that's the word I would use, tortured by people making fake accounts of women and texting them and thinking that they were flirting with him and stuff. Like, it was awful stuff. Like stuff like that, yeah, definitely. We should probably look into things like that. But somebody just saying an opinion about a politician or saying their opinion on migration and stuff. Because again, the majority of people, and the people shouldn't have to in the modern world, have to worry about saying their opinions and afraid of losing their job or their livelihood or whatever the case may be. Because that's what happens. This is a campaign like organised against people. We see it all the time. Maybe it's not too much in Ireland compared to other countries, but it does happen that people find out their name of the employer who they work for and ring up the employer and say what their opinions are online. Now, in my opinion, and obviously as somebody who works for the state myself, I don't say my opinions when I'm in the job, if that makes sense. When I get home, I say my 5 cents, but I still would say my 5 cents regardless of the job. But at the same time, I try and keep it as lack of political as possible. But this is the thing, it's people's own opinion. If you do it outside your work, it's your right. There's nothing to stop you from having an opinion. And that's as simple as that. But good luck, Simon Howes, because I don't think anybody's going to tolerate that bullshit, to be totally honest. I don't know how that's going to work, but just saying for myself, just saying for people who do have their names out there, like pretty much the government know everything about me. The government does know everything about everybody, let's be fair. They have everything about you, and that's the thing. They just need to know who it is and etc. That's the thing. But we don't want this, that you have to have IDs. You have to basically have ID. You have to ask the government, can you go online? That's pretty much what's happening here. And especially because the biggest fear for me is we see in China with the social credit score. That's what's going to probably happen. It'll be the same with climate probably soon. That if you go 100 kilometers a year and stuff, it'll be on your digital ID. Pretty much what they're trying to say here. Because that's what they're going to try and bring in too, digital ID. First of all, it's the government ID, and then it's digital ID, and then it'll be your carbon emissions, how much meat are you eating, etc. That's probably what's going to happen. Because let's be fair, it's all about control, and let's say it for what it is. It's not about protecting people. If they cared about protecting people and looking after people, there's so many people in Cavan abandoned by the state. The state is nowhere to be found. Alcoholics, people on drugs, people who are waiting for mental health treatment, young people. Not a hope. The state doesn't give a shit about them. Let's be fair. Let's call it spade. So talk about people's health. There's no support for them. And there's no support. So why are they saying I care about people's health? Simon Howes couldn't give a damn. The cervical check controversy. Poor Harvey that died waiting for scoliosis treatment. I don't see the state caring a damn about them. They say thoughts and prayers and stuff, but the state doesn't care. It's simple as that. It's the simple lads that they simply don't care. Like a young lad had his whole life ahead of him, was promised by Simon Howes himself that he'd get his operation. He never did, and unfortunately he's no longer with us. God rest his soul. And of course his family too, because it's a terrible thing they had to go through. But the government have ultimate responsibility, and the responsibility of many people's deaths on their hands. So don't give me that they care about people's health and well-being. They couldn't give a damn. Simon Howes here couldn't give a damn. But yeah, that's just my opinion. But as I say, I will stand against it as long as possible, and as long as I have to. Because I don't agree with it. We could do it to maybe a certain extent in terms of people actually, going around threatening people and stuff like that. Maybe we could look into that kind of things. But we're talking about just a blanket, like just new law and stuff. And especially trying to push that on other countries too. It's not acceptable. Anyway, let me know what you think. Subscribe for more, and bye.